Axim would like to thank you for tuning into its Health Insurance Essentials video, where we take a look at the core information you need to choose the right healthcare plan for you at a price that's affordable. Even though healthcare coverage has become a hot button issue here in America, we find that employees spend less than half an hour choosing out their coverage, and this is in part because they don't have a general understanding of healthcare terms nor how the coverage works. And it's even crazier to be uninformed about this choice when you consider that the leading cause of bankruptcy in America is medical bills. So when you choose your healthcare, you're not just choosing your personal wellness, you're actually making a choice about your financial wellness too. Which is why Axim created this video and wants you to concentrate on the 3 C's of choosing your healthcare plan. The first of which is cost. And we want you to think about more than just what comes out of your paycheck, but think about the long-term cost should something happen to you or your family. From there, we also want you to review your coverage. Do you or someone you love have a coverage need, like a prescription or regular treatment, that affects how you use your healthcare coverage? Because you need to factor that in when you choose a healthcare plan. Not just how much time you can save in using your coverage with one plan over another, but also think of convenience as an effective way to lower overall healthcare costs. Before we can help you choose the best healthcare plan that's right for you, there's some key terms we want to make sure are clear. The first of which is premium. Premium is the total cost of your insurance and can be a scary number because it's so big. But remember, it's the employer and employee portion that make up premium. What you're probably concerned about is deduction. Deduction is the amount that's going to come out of your pay on a regular basis for your health care costs. You also may see the term copay kicked around when you're selecting your plan. A copay is a flat amount you pay for something like a prescription or a doctor's service. So when you're reviewing the cost of your coverage, remember that premium, while a big number, is the total cost. Deduction and copay are the ones that are going to come out of your pocket. Now, one of the most confusing terms in healthcare insurance is deductible because it sounds so much like deduction. And while both of them are out-of-pocket expenses, a deductible is the amount you pay up front towards your healthcare coverage before insurance claims kick in. Once you've met your deductible, then a co-insurance percentage will kick in, which is the amount you'll pay towards your treatment and coverage until you meet that out-of-pocket max. Your out-of-pocket max is the total amount you'll spend on your healthcare coverage that year, co-pays, deductibles, and co-insurance combined. So let's put this into an example. Say an employee hadn't used their healthcare coverage all year and all of a sudden has some medical expenses. So at first he or she will pay $1,500 directly out of pocket towards the deductible. Then they'll pay 40% of any expenses incurred between the $1,500 and the $4,500 out-of-pocket maximum, that 40% co-insurance. Once they've met that $4,500 maximum, then all coverage 100% will be covered by the insurance company from there on in. Now let's kick it up a notch by taking a look at a sample plan, starting with the deductible, which in this case is $1,500 individual and $3,000 for the family, depending on which you're choosing. Then there's a co-insurance of 30% for being admitted to the hospital and all other remaining services, until you meet that out-of-pocket maximum, $3,500 individual and $10,500 for family. Now, whenever you're looking at a plan, you always want to look at other things like special services. So in this case, there's a $150 flat emergency room fee, which could be important if your family is a little accident prone or you get a lot of stitches. And also notice that there's a relatively low copay on prescription coverages down at the bottom. And if that's something that's important to you or your family's coverage, it could be a great way to limit out-of-pocket savings with a low copay on prescriptions you may have to pay a lot for right now. So that's what you need to consider when you're looking at a plan. Both the short-term cost of what's to be deducted from your check every month, plus the deductible you'd have to pay if you use your coverage, and then the co-insurance you'd have to keep paying until you meet that out-of-pocket maximum, plus whatever special services you can take advantage of to lower your overall healthcare cost. And since we know more about how healthcare costs works, it's time to apply that knowledge into finding the best coverage we can without wasting your hard-earned dollars. One of the most important things you can do is examine how you use your health care. Do you have a pre-existing condition or a lot of prescriptions or a lot of doctor treatments? Or are you one of those people who rarely ever goes to the doctor and maybe gets one preventative checkup a year? Or somewhere in between? Understanding how you spend your healthcare dollars and how often can be one of the most important keys to choosing a healthcare plan, because it can tell you how your costs are going to work out. And while every situation can be different, knowing how much you spend on healthcare costs can help you figure out where you should land on the scale. If you use it a lot, you want to look to a plan that has a higher deduction from your pay, but a lower co-insurance, deductible, and out-of-pocket max. The sooner you meet that, the sooner you're not paying out-of-pocket for your healthcare at all. If you don't use your coverage all that often, you want to aim for a plan that deducts less from your pay and has higher deductibles, copays, basically the things you're not planning on paying into anyways. And of course, there are plans in between for people who use their coverage some or maybe just for prescriptions or specific reasons, which is why you always want to look at those special sections. Which moves us along to the third C in choosing a healthcare plan, convenience, which of course is about saving you time and getting you the best resources in the easiest way possible so that using your healthcare isn't a chore. But what many people don't realize is that convenience has a huge impact on cost. One great example is going to out-of-network doctors and hospitals, which, as you saw in the sample plan, can be much more costly than going to in-network ones, which is why you always want to check that the hospitals, doctors, and specialists you want to use are available with the healthcare coverage you're about to choose. Otherwise, you could end up paying a lot for the convenience of using your healthcare coverage. You also want to be on the lookout for things like teledoc and nursing lines, who can give you medical advice of whether or not to go to a doctor or even a prescription without actually going to the doctor, therefore saving you a copay, part of your coinsurance, or a deductible. Now, before we leave you, let's take a moment to show you how to total up your estimated healthcare cost for next year, which begins with the number of times you'll have a pay deduction times the deducted amount, and that'll give you the baseline for what it's going to cost just to have the coverage. Now you want to use last or a previous year's coverage to find out how much you'd pay in deductible, copay, and that important stuff in this year's plan. That'll tell you what your general costs are going to be. You also want to look at that out-of-pocket max in case something really bad goes wrong and you end up having to pay for a lot more health care than you might have realized. Looking at that for each plan you're thinking about can give you the final decision you need to choose a health care coverage. On behalf of everyone at Axim, we'd like to thank you for watching, and we hope we shed a little bit of light on this very important decision, when we wish nothing but the best of health and wellness to you and your family. Thank you again for watching.